Well, good evening. It's about 5:15. I finished up making the bag I had to make outside. It's kind of actually chilly out there. It's only about -8, but must be high humidity and a little bit of a wind chill because it gets right into your bones and you just shiver. I think it was Tuesday, yesterday. Yeah, yesterday. I hauled a load of grain to the elevator. And I was thinking, I've had some people ask me after, I've done some videos on what it costs to put a crop in, potentially what you could make off of a crop. And I had, in one of the videos, I took a pretty good stand on my views towards forward contracting. And then I've had some people since then ask me like, well, if you don't forward contract, when do you sell your grain and why do you sell your grain? So I thought, well, actually, today it was kind of a slow day. I just made bags today. May as well hammer that topic out for those who are interested. So firstly, we're going to start out why you sell grain in the fall, like right off the combine. So obviously a farmer, his only source of income is the money he gets off of the crop that he grew. So this is just a grain farmer specific. I'm not going to get into the cattle and all that other stuff because I'm only a grain farmer. So where you might get a 9-to-5 or might work a 9-to-5 job, get a paycheck every 2 weeks, a farmer is going to get effectively, well, potentially if he sells his whole crop off the combine, he's going to get one paycheck throughout the year. So that's something he's got to work around. But the reasons you may sell right off the combine, there's basically only 3. One is bin space. 2 is if your grain is out of condition. And the third one, and this is the most common reason why people sell in the fall, is they wanted that delivery date. Like they want that cash flow to pay their bills. Mostly how farming works in our area for sure, at least when we've been involved in it and asked the questions about it, if you grow your crop on credit, so you've taken a loan out on your fertilizer, your seed, and your chemical, most of those have to be paid by November, December, certainly before the new year. So in the fall, September, October, when you're combining, if you want to have your spring bills paid before the new year, you need to ensure you get a delivery date. So, and in order to do that, and this is why I don't like it, you've had to sign up your grain right around this time. So January, February, even earlier, December, you've been talking to your elevator agent and you've been signing up your grain for the 2022 season to be delivered September, October, November. So right now, for instance, and we'll just use this, and this is kind of how it was last year, the price for canola into 2022, into the fall of 2022, is about $18.50. Now, we have no idea what the price of canola is going to be when we get there. So if you back up to last year, the price of canola, if you signed your crop up early, was like $14, $15 a bushel. So guys were hauling canola off the combine for $14 or $15 a bushel. That time, the canola was $22, $23 a bushel. So that right there, when you start to look at losing $7 or $8 a bushel, that's $16,000 per Super B load. Like, that's got to be tough to take. But people are forced into that situation, and that's one of the reasons I don't like it. So those are the 3 reasons why you might sell your grain right off the combine. If you've had a hard fall and your grain is damp or green or tough, you're on borrowed time when you stick that in a grain bin. If your drying capacity is not, doesn't exceed the size of your farm, you won't keep up and you won't get the grain into condition. So you can throw it in an aeration bin, keep it for a week or 2, and haul it to the elevator. They have much larger drying facilities, and then they can get it to market and get it gone. So that's that reason. And then the second reason was bin space. Oftentimes, farms will, throughout the winter, they'll be looking to either acquire more land by purchasing it or acquire more land by leasing and renting it. Both of these things are done without building the infrastructure to support it. So if you have enough bin space for your 2,500 acre farm per se like we do. We're actually even short a little bit of bin space. On a really good year, we have to use our machine sheds. But if you're set up for 2,500 acres worth of bin space, and then you go ahead and rent yourself 600 more acres, where are you going to put that 600 acres of grain? If you have a good year, you can dump it on the ground. You can stick it in machine sheds and things like that. There's those baggers that people have, you can rent and use. However, nothing beats just getting it sold and getting it gone, because nothing beats physical, concrete, permanent storage. Those bags have their faults. Dumping it directly on the ground has its faults. Sticking it in a bin with a cable, knowing it's dry and in condition, that's the best way. So if you don't have that option, farmers will often elect to take a little bit less money to get it out of their hair, get it gone before something happens to it. So once again, 3 reasons. If your grain isn't in condition, if you don't have the bin space, and if you just wanted that delivery date to pay some spring bills. Those are the 3 reasons why you're going to sell right off the combine. Now, we don't sell right off the combine. We keep our grain. So why would we sell now? And I will admit, I missed the $24 canola. I missed the $13 wheat. We've done things a little bit differently on our farm anyways, with this whole feed thing that we do, where we grind and mix the grain up for hundreds of local livestock producers, or hobby farmers. So we save quite a bit for that. So we're not quite in the market per se of getting rid of the whole crop. We still sell all of our canola base, or 90% of our canola. We keep a little bit back for chicken feed, but anyways, most of our canola goes to the elevator. A bunch of the number 1 wheat and the number 2 wheats go. A few loads of barley, because we grow too much barley that we can't use it all in our feed business. When we have really good human consumption peas, generally the majority of those go. And oats has been one thing the last couple of years where we've actually peddled all of our oats through the feed business, so we haven't even had to market those. So anyways, back to why would we start to sell grain now to the elevators? Well, there's really only 3 things that a farmer actually needs, and that is seed, chemical, and fertilizer to do this again next year. So if we see, and Corey deals with this, if she gets some calls from some of these these agents at these different elevators or fertilizer plants, and or chemical facilities, and they say, look, if you can take 4 totes of chemical, we can give it to you for 10% off. Well, that's actually quite a bit of savings. So it would be worthwhile to sell some grain so you can pay that out, take delivery of that chemical, and that happens with seed and fertilizer as well. 10% is usually a stretch. These guys, their programs are usually around 3 or 4, so you got to do a little bit more math to see, is it worth maybe borrowing some money to buy these inputs and paying that low interest rate, or is it worth selling the grain and paying it off? There's that whole thing. So that's the first one, is buying future inputs, seed, chemical, or fertilizer. The second one is infrastructure and machinery. So we're always looking, Buddy and I, my son, we're always looking through the newspapers and things, and on Kijiji and stuff, what's out there, grain trucks, combines, tractors, anything, implements. If you see something off season, there's generally the equipment is marked down, or the piece of infrastructure is marked down. One year we did this off season. We bought some grain bins. We bought 10,000 bushel grain bins. They were $5,500 for the package. We built them ourselves. Those packages, I think, are right around $18,000 to $20,000 normally. So that was there was a no-brainer. You sell a load of grain, you get 2 packages, you save yourself potentially $30,000, $15,000 a package. And that's no different with combines, with tractors. Best time to buy a combine really is in the winter. If someone's traded off a combine and it goes into the dealership, you can put a bug in your equipment dealer's ear and say, look, my next purchase is probably going to be a combine. And they know the size of your farm. They know if your salesman's any good, he'll know this. Knows the size of the farm, knows what you can use, knows what you can handle. And when something comes across his desk, he can pick up the phone and say, hey, look, Robin, we got this combine come across. It would fit good on your farm. It's whatever, $100,000, $200,000, $300,000. Now, yet again, you got to do the math. Is it worth financing, leasing this machine, or is it worth hauling just a few, well, more than a few loads of grain, and paying it off. And then thirdly is land acquisition. So if land comes up for sale, if land comes up for rent or for lease, we're seeing all sorts of new complex lease agreements on our farm. This is actually another topic going to be for another video. I think renting is the devil. I do not like it. They used to have permanent tenants in the feudal times. They called them serfs and peasants, and I don't subscribe to that. I don't like that. Agriculture is a tough business, usually not the most financially rewarding. I've mentioned this in some other videos. The things that farmers own do not give them the same joy as your side-by-side and your boat and your camper and your cottage and your whatever that you have. So when you look at a farmer and say, well, he's got a $300,000 tractor, that tractor does not give him near the joy that your $30,000 side-by-side or your $100,000 lake boat gives you. So one of the most important things is pride of ownership. And I think that certainly young people getting into ag, I consider myself a young person in ag at 33, you can feel a lot better about your day and a lot better about what you're doing if you own the land. So that would be basically the third reason why you would sell grain, just commit to selling it, is the fact that there's been some land come up for sale or some land come up to lease or rent. I've heard of situations now with the sky high rent and the horrible volatility in the grain prices, and then seems to be we've had some pretty good yielding years and some pretty bad ones. People lock themselves into these big commitments of cost per acre rents and stuff like that, and often they can't meet that obligation, so the renter just loses out because he didn't take the rent up front. So we're actually hearing now of stories of renters demanding the rent up front. So it's possible that right around March, April, you are going to have to be giving your your landlord a decent chunk of change to secure the land to be rented. But hopefully I didn't flail too much. I see I'm just getting over 12 minutes here. That's going to be long enough for the video. So if you're watching this, I know some of the guys that watch this aren't involved in ag. Hopefully you've learned something, and thank you for watching. We'll see you all on the next one.